Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at the firm. Today's review, we're going to be looking at this organization's cookie notice. So I'm not particularly familiar with this organization. By clicking accept, you agree to the storing of cookies on your device to enhance site navigation, analyze site usage, and assist in our marketing efforts. So I'm going to deny. I want to hover over the services because that might give me insight into what this business actually does. So they've got something called Mob AI. So it helps with product development and teamwork. The purpose here is to use AI to increase efficiency, grow company-specific AI using Teams knowledge. Let's go back to the cookie notice. So the first thing I wanted to mention is there's no date in which this was last updated. Okay, so the reason I just clicked this is because I wanted to see where they were located. So they're located in Finland. And as far as I know, based in 2026, Finland is a European Union member state. They've been part of the European Union since 1995. So the reason I checked that is because I was very surprised about the cookie banner we just received because it only had two buttons. It had an accept button and it had a deny button. There was no opportunity on that banner to exercise our preferences when it came to the cookies that were collected as a result of me interacting with this site. So we're actually going to go back to the cookie notice because that's what I really want to talk about. I also want to see if there's an opportunity at the bottom of the site to exercise my preferences, which again, there is not. We use a wide range of cookies on our website, some of which are controlled by us and some of which are controlled by other orgs. Some of the cookies are considered necessary for us to be able to deliver the website to you. And others help us enhance our understanding of how you use our website, so that will be me, as well as assist us in our marketing activities. Under the Act on Electronic Communication Services of Finland, we are required to obtain your consent for any use of cookies which is not considered necessary, as well as provide you information as to what the cookies do. So there was two buttons on that banner. One was accept, one was deny. But there was no opportunity to review any that were not necessary. But we're told here that the cookies in use are preference cookies. We've got statistic cookies. We've got marketing cookies. But that banner didn't reflect that. So do you see this cookie consent process workflow? We only had two buttons. How do I, as a consumer of this website, exercise my preference when it comes to marketing cookies? And what does accept and deny truly mean in practice? What did I actually deny? And what about if I'm okay with preference cookies being collected but not statistics? How do I exercise that? I think that it's really valuable for businesses to see what's happening in practice because generally I don't have insight when I conduct these reviews into geography. But at a minimum, this organization is going to be collecting cookies in Finland because we've seen a reference to their obligations under this act. We know they have obligations under the GDPR too because they're located in a European Union member state. So the question now is, how are the obligations under the GDPR reflected in this statement? And are they indicative of the manner in which this website is used? Because it appears that this is what's in scope. I think the value add here would be to address the cookie banner and address the preference center and consider reviewing the cookies that are, according to this organization, currently in use. Because if any of this has changed with respect to how the website is being utilized, then this is not an accurate reflection of the true cookies in use. I think the other thing that's very interesting about the banner that was presented is that it talked about site usage and assisting that, but it didn't really talk much about the marketing piece. And this is really important and has become very sophisticated in terms of how companies are advertising to consumers, and that needs to be reflected. The other thing that I think is of mention for this particular review is the fact that the buttons on that banner were different colors. And there's been guidance in some geographies that businesses should make the colors on the buttons for their cookie banner the same color to avoid any inference of a dark pattern. And a dark pattern is a tactic that's used by organizations to influence how a user navigates a specific website or product, but it essentially influences how they interact with the site. And most times it's not in a positive way. And that's something that also should be reviewed, which is why it's really important to take privacy seriously. I think that many organizations don't realize that even if they do process business contact data, which is traditionally like a full name, a business email address, a business telephone number, a title in a company, there are still responsibilities that you have as an organization that you need to fulfill under the data protection laws. Personal data is personal data. regulator. It doesn't matter whether you're a collector of a social security number or biometric identifiers, or if you're collecting the name and email address of the customers that obtain your services. You've got to be very careful about that as a business and reconcile that against what you're doing in practice, what your service offerings are, and the scope that you place on your website, because this is something that if you were ever to be issued an investigation by a regulator, you would have to produce documentation reflecting your good standing from a privacy posture perspective. And if you're not reviewing this thing regularly, you can put yourself in a position where you're expending an immense amount of resources rectifying the situation. If you listen to any of my podcasts, you'll see what types of enforcement actions regulators can issue towards businesses. Sometimes you're given 30 days or 60 days to rectify the issues related to your privacy practice, but sometimes you're not able to do that because in order to reconcile what you place on your website and then what's done internally, it's going to take more than 30 days, and then you put yourself in jeopardy of being issued a fine. So it's probably better to avoid all of that by just spending some time updating your notices. This is what you're telling your consumers you do with their cookies. Is this accurate of what our business is doing? Yes or no? If the answer is no, how do we address it, and what will it take to address that to maintain our privacy posture? So I really hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any comments or questions about what I've stated, leave a comment below and I'll see you in another review.